experience doing it. So,
and I've gotten very, very lucky on that.
I played in college. I cannot fathom trying to play basketball on a pair of ones. And I mean, you heard Jordan talk about how his feet were bleeding by the end of that game.
Steph gets it quickly behind his back, gets Jackson turning, and look out, here he comes. 23 and white. Scotty for three. And Anderson going right away. Stockton comes over on the double team. Comes back to Scotty. And then
Now, he was a nice person, those reporters. He saved my life. Michael was walking out, and a group of reporters who were all talking to him as he walked out. I was leading the group with my reporter there, and I was this far from walking off the big loading dock and dropping, falling 12 feet.
You going to talk, Josh?
welcome to Double Clutch. My name is Josh Coyne, and I'm joined by my good friend and frequent host of the show, Mike Miller. How are you?
I'm good, mate. Very good. How are you doing?
Yeah, good. Thank you. And thanks for helping me out on that technical glitch there. I just, I wasn't seeing the screen, so I just didn't know what the hell was going on. Next, we have regular Double Clutch contributor and long-time victim of Knicks fandom, Nick Whitfield. What's going on?
I've got a bone to pick with everyone destroying the Knicks off-season, as we know. I'm excited to get to that segment. I'm ready.
I can feel the passion radiating off you. As usual, behind the control desk, we've got our skipper, our leader, our captain, Kirk. How are you doing back there?
Next.
Okay. Your wish is my command. And finally, this week, he hosts the Anytime NBA show. You can see him on Sky Sports. He's worked with #United. And you know what? He does a great DJ set from his bedroom. And he's taking some time away from the mixer today to hop onto the Double Clutch podcast. Yani, how are you?
Fantastic. Probably a little bit better than Nick.
It's not hard.
No, don't worry. I certainly have my bones.
So tell us about your relationship with basketball, just for anyone who doesn't know, and what kind of brought you into the NBA UK community.
For sure. It's an interesting one because, I'm known for different things, but people, I guess most people don't really know that I'm an out-and-out hooper. And so I started playing ball in primary school, and then made my secondary school choice based on the fact that they were a national or a school competing in national championships for basketball. That was Northfleet Tech. So learned the game. Yeah. So learned the game there at Northfleet. Played academy ball, etc. And yeah, just fell in love with ball since then. And of course, getting into the NBA, that would have been in around 2012 for me. And yeah, just hooping every week, standard. I play local league as well. I play runs all over London, wherever I can. I do workouts in the mornings at my local park. Yeah, whatever really. Just a hooper. And it's cool because my town, Gravesend, situated not too far away from Dartford, is almost an anomaly in its demographic. Either side, you've got the Midway towns and Dartford, of course, but Gravesend's a proper hoopers town. Like, everyone plays ball in Gravesend. Obviously, we've got Northfleet, etc., but everyone's a hooper. During summer, like our central park, and it's a good spot to be fair, it's packed. Like, you go down there on your ones and you get in a game 100%. It's like 5-on-5 off.
What's your position of choice?
I run the game, point guard. For sure.
Run the game. I love that. I love that. So be sure to follow us on.
That's CP3.
Slight connection issues there, lagging, and I'm not interrupting you, I promise. Follow us on Double Clutch UK on Twitter and Instagram. Find us on YouTube and Facebook. Also, you can follow us on Discord to get involved in the chatter. Discord is www.discord.me/double-clutch. You can also, and you probably are, watching us on Twitch at twitch.tv/double-clutch. Right. So we're going to start here in a way that I'm not sure many podcasts have started this way for a long time. You know, probably since the medium was born. We're going to dive deep into the Charlotte Hornets, because what better way than to chat with a Hornets fan directly and have them involved with that. So I'm going to start. I mean, you know, I know we've already been to you, Yanni, but it makes sense. How are you generally feeling about your boys now?
A lot better than last year. You got to think, last year before the season tipped off, the Hornets had just acquired Terry Rozier. That really was the marquee signing, which is not a good place to be in. Devontae Graham obviously goes off, got jumps, you know, from in and around 5 points to 19.5 points per game in the season, worthy of most improved, which is fantastic, which means there's so much more excitement around the team just from Devontae Graham having a good year. Now we're talking about the additions of LaMelo Ball and Gordon Hayward.
I mean, that's you know, some positive news. We'll get into the fit and how things might work out for them. Nick, if you were a Charlotte Hornets fan, LaMelo Ball selected at number 2 last week, and well, a couple of weeks ago. I'm starting to lose track of time because it's been such a turbo ride. But you know, as we previously covered, LaMelo Ball was selected at number 2. What are your expectations for him overall, and you know, immediately when he enters the league?
So I think LaMelo is a perfect fit in Charlotte. In the thing Charlotte has always struggled with, pretty much since the days of Alonzo Mourning and Larry Johnson, is people actually talking about the Hornets. So LaMelo is going to solve that problem. There is, and his dad will make sure of that. And not only like getting people talking about that team and hyping the team up, hyping the city up, but also in terms of he's obviously a talented player. He is a real he has a real vision on the court in finding other players, and I think he has a real opportunity to help make players on that squad better. The thing I also like, which I think we'll get into a bit more detail on, is the pickup of Hayward, because what that does is it helps lower the immediate kind of responsibilities for LaMelo Ball. He's not going to have to carry that team immediately because you have the experience and the salary of Hayward sitting there now, where he's going to be the leader on that team. And I think LaMelo's in a real good spot now to help drive that team forward.
Yeah, it's a really interesting one, isn't it? Because what you're doing is you're joining your kind of primary ball handlers are quite strong facilitators, and they kind of hang their game on that. Mike, how do you feel the fit between Hayward and LaMelo working?
I don't know how many needles it's going to move, if I'm honest. I don't know what their expectations are for the season. Clearly, the front office is engaged and behind Melo, because they've gone out and headhunted, well, one of the biggest names available this, I was going to say summer then, but it's definitely not summer, though I am wearing shorts. So to me, it's just like, well, what really are they? Why have they brought Hayward in on that astronomical salary? And it's got to be to be like the pros pro, to show him the ropes of how to get by in the NBA. You know, when has Hayward really ever had any sort of, you know, any sort of ounce of trouble off the court, anything like that? On the court, maybe about 5 or 6 extra wins. I don't have high expectations for them this year. But I know people are big Melo fans, but I'm dubious as to what impact he's going to have. I hope I'm very, very wrong.
Yeah, and Yanni, obviously that's 120 million around that figure over 4 years. How do you feel about the kind of the extent of commitment they've showed to Gordon Hayward?
Well, let me give the positive spin. Mike's just touched on it there about being a pro's pro. Do you know what? Sometimes, despite the fact that he's not a groundbreaking player, and any NBA fan would immediately look at 120 mil for Gordon Hayward and go, that's a dud. But bringing someone like that in, you're right, Mike. He's not trouble. He's a pro's pro, and he'll teach everyone how to do it. He's a player that fits in wherever he goes. Anytime, anywhere he's played, whether it be the Jazz, the Celtics, he's been a very, very good player on that team. So yeah, the value there for Hayward, not necessarily just in what he's given you off the court, and of course he's not got that explosive step that he had before. He was getting to the line a lot. He was getting to the rim a lot before, but he wasn't with the Celtics post injury. But I like it. What else are you going to spend your money on? You're the Hornets. Nobody wants to go to you, bro. Do you know what I mean?
I agree.
So do you think it's a kind of putting bums on seats situation for them?
Well, I like it. So people, again, Mike, you touched on it. LaMelo fans, are nuts. Like they really are in for him, which is fascinating. Of course, I'm not as much, as is anyone who watches him and goes, okay, he can't really score. But people that watch him think that he's a can't miss. That people will look back at it like Luka Doncic and go, I can't believe we didn't draft him. And if the Hornets can get that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, I completely. Sorry. Yeah, I was just going to say I agree on that. In that the Hornets haven't been a free agent destination for a number of years, and so what another positive way of looking at it is they're basically paying or have been paying Nick Batum that already. So they're essentially replacing Batum with Hayward, whose productivity should be a lot higher.
I mean, it will be. You'll probably see 20 points per game from Hayward this year. You were getting 5 from Nick Batum.
So the loss of Nick Batum after 5 years, 1 playoff series, 308 games, nearly 4,000 points, and 120 million. Mike, how do you see his tenure being remembered in Charlotte?
As an absolute albatross of a contract. I mean, why? He had his best years with the Blazers. That was pretty apparent before he went to the Hornets that he wasn't of the level of talent required to be a marquee player. But, as we've said, this is the Hornets. If they want a name, and Batum's name, it wasn't mud then. Like, he was a decent two-way player. If they want names, they need to overpay. But I just don't see. I don't know what this team is expecting. They usually draft, or historically have drafted poorly, and they're not big enough franchise to get big names. I'm not sure, and this is the one area I don't trust him, basketball wise. I just don't see what MJ as the owner is really bringing to the table other than his own name.
I can't believe Mike,
wow, that's
aka Mr. MJ Stan, has gone there.
This is the only part of his resume that I can't defend.
I mean, let's elaborate on that, by the way. Mike Miller, the actual, literal NBA UK mastermind in the call right now. How do you feel about your performance, and your general show of knowledge about Mr. Michael Jeffrey Jordan?
I'm pissed I dropped the first question, but other than that, I did all right.
What was the first question?
What's Michael Jordan's fear?
What is Michael Jordan's fear?
It's water. He almost drowned off the coast of Carolina as a child, and his best friend at the time actually died. But anyway, I just
anyway
on a slightly lighter note, I just this whole thing needs to change. He needs to stop hiring, and I know he's only recently put him in there, but Buzz Peterson, who was his roommate at UNC, isn't exactly an NBA GM. I think he's the assistant GM at the minute. He just needs to stop putting his friends in, the yes men in, and he needs someone who can run it.
That's fair. And let's talk about another front office that continue to make decisions that cause a lot of reaction online. Let's quickly touch then, Nick Whitfield, on your New York Knicks, as you mentioned in the intro of the call. A lot of negative reaction to the Knicks offseason, and you thought that you thought this has been a bit overblown. Everything is in place for next year, perhaps. Is that your general vibe?
Kind of. I'll word it a different way. There's different ways of being bad in the NBA. And for most of my time supporting the Knicks, they have been bad with no hope of being better for the foreseeable future because they've mortgaged the future with contracts, giving away draft picks. So you end up with this bad team full of injured, overpaid former stars. And so what they're doing now, and a lot of the criticisms that I see about the Knicks offseason is relying on an assumption that they're actually trying to win next season, which I think if you look at their roster, you cannot seriously think that is a team actually trying to compete next season. They've completely bottomed out the roster deliberately with some talented young guys, admittedly, like Mitchell Robinson, RJ Barrett, Obi Toppin coming in the draft, etc. But next year's draft is actually full of top-tier talent. That's where the likes of Jalen Green or Cade Cunningham or any of those type of guys can actually shift the needle for a team. And because of continual ineptitude, the Knicks have not been a free agent destination either. No one wants to play for that team who is an established star, as we've seen. So the draft is the way for the Knicks to build, and they're actually getting in position to secure talent that way. So as I was saying, there's different ways of being bad, and if they're going to be bad, at least be bad with a strong chance of being better, which is what I see in the Knicks now.
Yeah, I don't think I was succinct enough last week.
That kind of win now mentality that's assumed in the city of New York, that comes from the market, doesn't it, Mike?
Yeah, absolutely. And Nick's spot on. Good is relative. And the Knicks, by Knicks standards, God, too many Knicks in this sentence, have been good this offseason. If you look at the way they're loaded up now, there's no guy signed past 2022 except I think RJ Barrett, which his is still 2023. So they are completely a short-term roster. They've got guys there who need to prove themselves. They've got the sign and trade with Austin Rivers, who is by no means a needle mover, but is someone who can put the ball in the hoop and can be a guy who drops a huge number, once or twice a season. He can also come out there and lead a team and has an experience with other teams. He's not the savior, but he's out there playing for a contract. Even someone like MKG, I love the MKG pickup because this is a guy who was like a first team all defense nod. If only he could sort out his offensive game. He rode the bench for the Mavericks last season, but he's capable. And this is kind of his last shot. They've actually got this sort of gritty core that need to fight for their place in the league. They've got young guys who are going to get the lumps. They're going to take the L's, but hopefully they can start building a culture there where guys are going to want to come and play for them, and they're not just the joke Knicks that think they're, like the 2015 or 2017, which was basically the rerun of the 2011 Bulls, and everyone was like, Knicks are back in the playoffs, and that didn't happen. At least now they've just lowered expectations. Let's build from the ground up.
That's fair. Any final words, Nick, on this impassioned subject?
No, I thought I agreed with everything Mike said there. The Austin Rivers contract, I think, is actually very good value. $10 million over 3 years, so just over $3 a season for when you look what he's able to do. That's really good value. But yeah, I completely agree. The flexibility, the cap room, and that's all Knicks fans can hope for at this point is hope. So the fact there is actually some hope is a major plus.
We had a question in the chat. Do you want me to drop them in, Josh, as we go?
Go for it.
Coach Hugh, good friend Coach Hugh, is the hope of the Knicks getting better next season more or less hopeful than last season's hope of the Knicks getting better?
Good question.
Well, I don't think
I feel like you've just dropped an extreme riddle.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an awkward question, but the way I think about that is let me put it this way, like just because the Knicks aren't branding the rebuild, they're not calling it the process like Philly did or whatever, but it's essentially the same thing. You keep rolling the dice in the draft until you get talent actually worth building around, as they got with Embiid and Simmons, obviously. I don't think Obi Toppin is a good player, for example. RJ Barrett is a good player, but I don't think anyone was looking at them as like franchise stars. And so the whole point is to keep re-rolling until you get those. Otherwise, you end up like the Spurs Hugh loves, where you're going to be stuck with LaMarcus Aldridge and DeMar DeRozan fighting for the 8th seed every year, which is a bit pointless.
So are you saying Obi Toppin's the Michael Carter Williams of this New York Knicks?
No, I actually like his game. He kind of reminds me of someone like Kenyon Martin from back in the day, who like real athlete, moves a little bit awkwardly though. But I'm excited. I'm expecting some tip dunks.
He dunked, I think it was over 107 times last year. It might have been in and around 124. Point being, he had the most dunks in the NCAA. He really gets to the rim.
As per Synergy, as I can attest, he actually had way more dunks than a load of entire teams last season on his own.
Yeah.
So let's move into something a little bit more lowbrow here. Did anyone watch Nate Robinson getting knocked out by Jake Paul?
Saw the clip, didn't watch the fight.
Saw the clip.
Same.
Boxing's not for me.
Incredibly, I saw it. I saw it after the fight happened, so the day after. But I swear, I saw it more times. Maybe just because it's basketball related, but I swear I saw it more times than I see anything to do with a normal professional boxing match.
Yeah, for sure. It's Nate Robinson getting knocked out by a YouTuber. It's absolute 2020.
Is it that big of a surprise?
I didn't watch it.
It's not a surprise.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. That's what I was thinking, because I didn't watch it. I saw, like a lot of you guys, I saw the subsequent Twitter reaction the next morning, and I was thinking, should really a pro athlete be losing to a YouTuber? But I feel as though I'm not really one to say, because I'm not a massive boxing fan. But it feels almost like there's a natural inclination to always back someone, even if they've only been involved in another sport, if they've been a pro athlete.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Jake Paul's background and his brother's background is like state championship wrestling.
Oh, there you go. That's a combat sport straight away.
Both of them are active freaks, to be fair.
Jake Paul is also like much bigger than him, with a much bigger reach. He's much taller. It's just like, it wasn't a great matchup physically.
No, and
even
I
as
saw
freakishly
not only did we
athletic as
see
Nate
some
Robinson
great,
is.
yeah, we saw some great reactions on Twitter, and Donovan Mitchell tweeted lots of things about it. But also Shaq today said that, pick yourself up, little man. I remember you knocked that guy out in Boston, which doesn't feel like something really that anyone's PR team really wants them to share. But Donovan Mitchell shared something basically saying that he wanted Snoop Dogg to be always doing the commentary for the NBA. Is there anyone, I'll start with Nick, is there anyone where you would like, is there anyone you would like to be doing NBA commentary going forward?
Yeah, I went a little bit rogue on this one. My thoughts were, and it went back to my childhood playing N64, of Charles Martinet, I think is how you say his name, who is the voice of both Mario and Wario.
You said you were going to take it left of field. I didn't realise we were going.
The thing I like the idea of is him actually being both like the colour commentator and the play-by-play guy in the different voices.
That's hilarious.
That is mad.
Mike, what about you?
See, I've copped out on this a little bit because the guy I've picked has actually commentated NBA games before, but it's Tim Kitzrow. Similar to Nick, I've gone with the voice of NBA Jam, who quite frequently features in our ears thanks to Kirk. But that guy is just, yeah, exactly. He's just the GOAT when it comes to commentating sort of crazy things. And if you get a chance, definitely look for the, they called it an XXX version, but I don't think it was actually that horrific. But the commentary they do, which is, go on YouTube, the XXX version of NBA Jam, where there's things like grabs his Johnson for and stuff like that is thrown in there. Tim Kitzrow would be absolutely incredible.
Okay, Yanni?
Dizzy Rascal was really good on the first FIFA street.
That is a great shout.
Yeah,
that is a tremendous shout. Dizzy Rascal doing an NBA show. I wonder what his knowledge of the game is like.
Nah, it's with the assumption that he acquires magically 15 years of NBA knowledge.
I think it'd be great
So
to team him up.
For sure.
I'd like to also the process of explaining to Americans what half of what he says means.
All you'd hear is, "That is mustard."
Yeah.
See, I think they would get that because they use they reference things off the glass as English, which is a mustard reference, I believe. So yeah.
Always with your mustard references, Mike.
Always with my mustard references. I think Josh is having some connection issues at the minute. You all right, buddy?
I'm gonna tag out. Otherwise, I'm gonna keep speaking over you. I'm sorry about this, but I'll be back.
I'll be back. Arnold Schwarzenegger. He would be a terrible commentator. Okay, so that was Nate Robinson getting knocked out by Jake Paul. I don't know. That's the point of the off season we're in already, where we're talking about a boxing match between someone who's not got anything to do with basketball and a former player. So we're going to move on now back to basketball. 2020-2021 returnees, the comeback kids. Andre Iguodala has predicted Kevin Durant's going to be league MVP this year. So returning to health, new opportunity. What do you think his chances are? I'll come to Yanni first. MVP KD, what do you think?
Sorry, connection just dropped out, but I assume you come to me. I really want to see it. And if Andre Iguodala is confident and comfortable enough to say that, then that fills me with a lot of hope. I'd very, very much like the Nets to be everything that they're built to be. There is nothing I want more than Kevin Durant to win to have an MVP-like season alongside a healthy Kyrie Irving. Fingers crossed, big time.
Nick, doable?
It's tough to know what Iggy's basing that on. Has he seen him, or is it just that's his best mate, so he's saying that? But I agree with Yanni. I'd love to see it happen because I think the NBA will be better next year if the Nets are good. It's a franchise that hasn't had a huge amount of success, so you'd love to see them go far in the playoffs. Also, a pipe dream would be for the Knicks to be good enough to have any sort of genuine rivalry there. So that's something in my agenda. But yeah, I think that there's a real opportunity to have an interesting team there. The thing I think that will be interesting to monitor with that team is how disruptive the rumors about James Harden are if they carry on into the season. If that doesn't happen before the season starts and that is playing up, there's going to be a load of guys on that roster looking at themselves thinking, I might not be here next week.
I did think of that dynamic. It's a real tough one, isn't it? As it pertains to these big trades, these Anthony Davis to the Lakers-esque trades, where there's 3 or 4 players who are being talked about in these trades, and my word, you're sitting there thinking. Every day you're reading stuff about being traded. Spencer Dinwiddie is obviously very active on Twitter. He just replies to all of the rumours. It's carnage. It's absolute carnage. And so, it'd be interesting to see if that happens. You saw how it went down with the Lakers. The players had somewhat of a resentment towards the organisation. I'm sure the same would happen to the Nets. I don't know. I don't know why it wouldn't be. For what it's worth, I'm very happy as it is right now. Kevin Durant could win the MVP on this team, 100%. They're a team good enough to get the 7th seed in the East last year. It is the East, of course. But the past 2 years, the D'Angelo Russell playoff year when they came up against the Sixers, and then this one where they came up against the Raptors. Granted, they got absolutely slapped about. But they put up a good fight in both years, and they put together a good team with players that keep surprising us. So Kevin Durant can absolutely do it.
I think the biggest concern for me is that an Achilles injury is like a 2-year job, and maybe he's about 18 months into it, but it robs you of a level of athleticism. The benefit that KD's got is that in terms of traditional athleticism, that's not something he's ever relied on. He is enough of a game offensively to sort of mask that to a degree. But defensively, I think people forget how much of a defensive presence he is. Like with that Warriors team, his weak side help was just insane. And his rim protection, because he's basically 7 foot anyway, but I think that side of his game is where we're going to see a more significant impact. It's quite difficult to compare him to other players who've suffered Achilles because Kobe was over the hill, and the only sort of guy you're looking at who's come back from that kind of injury with any semblance of success really is someone like Elton Brand. Now, obviously he was heavier, different type of player completely, so I expect KD to get much further back to where he was than that. But it is a concern of mine. I mean, I pray that the dude comes back to like Finals MVP KD level, but I don't know. It's a tough one to come back from. So let's move on to his former running partner. Sorry, go ahead, Yanni.
I was going to say, and just in recent times, Elton Brand, DeMarcus Cousins hasn't boded well. You're right.
They're extra weight in those forwards. Now, speaking of someone who's got an extra weight, Steph Curry, he's looking pretty jacked at the minute. Says he's rested and ready to go. What can we expect from him without Clay this season, Nick?
It's an interesting one. He is good enough to go crazy all on his own, but I don't think the team will be good enough without Clay to really be a threat, probably. But I think the question is bigger than Steph because we haven't seen Draymond at his best for a little while now. They have some interesting pieces there as well. What does Wiggins look like alongside those guys? James Wiseman came in the draft, a hugely talented big guy. The best comp for him, I think, is DeAndre Ayton, who's done incredibly well in Phoenix. So adding that sort of talent is kind of a bit of a void they had in the middle. Got Nico Mannion, the young Italian-American guy coming in, who's a real talent. Could have been potentially a bit undervalued in the draft. So yeah, there's a lot of moving parts there. Kelly Oubre, obviously. So it's a real new look Warriors. So I'm not worried about Steph and what he's going to do because I think he's just that good. But my question is more about the rest of the team.
Do you think his load's going to be bigger this year, Yanni?
I hope so. I think he can manage it as well. My expectations for Steph Curry are to be near on an MVP level player, especially considering the amount of time he's had off and the work ethic that his name sort of gets associated with. I also think we could see a lot from Andrew Wiggins in his sort of second year, or at least his first proper year. For sure, absolutely. Why not? This is a player. Now, I jump on this train every year, it's worth noting. So, but I'm happy to stay on it because when he's on, which he has been at the Timberwolves, he's been unbelievable. He's had great games against the Warriors. So when he comes in, Steve Kerr looks at it and goes, "Okay, this isn't a complete write-off job." Despite the fact that he does get involved in every trade rumor to do with the Warriors, but this is a player that probably can average in and around 23 points per game, best case scenario for the Golden State Warriors.
Do you know what? I'm actually on board with you there. I think Wiggins could be the X factor on this team. I'm joining this train that you run on every season.
Feel free, choo.
It's just the way I look at it is the 73-9 season. Harrison Barnes was the starting small forward. Wiggins is more athletic. He's longer. We've not really seen him in an efficient enough system to get the best out of his skill set. I think he could be a Harrison Barnes plus. In terms of Steph this season, I expect him to be exactly the same as he is on the ball. I wonder what difference he's going to make off the ball because one of the keys to that offense is how much space he creates for everyone else when he's darting around. And when you've got someone like Clay who doesn't need the ball and is just can just pitch up after one dribble from 35 feet out, that's a huge benefit to have. If that's not there, does his lanes get more clogged to get through? Is that why he's jacked up a bit? And now he's post 30. Is that the right thing to be doing in this league when we see the bigger guys start to slim down at that point? I don't know. I still think he's going to be very good. I still think the Warriors are going to be damn near excellent. And you mentioned James Wiseman, Nick. What the Warriors have been able to do with random big men over the past few years, Jordan Bell, Damian Jones, that's 2 weeks in a row he's got a reference on this. Kevon Looney, those guys have suddenly become impact players, and it's because of the way this system works. So if Draymond is still able to run that point forward spot, then then this Warriors team are going to be still a tough matchup night in, night out.
Oubre was 19 points per game last year.
It's going to be. I just think anyone who's already writing them off as not being decent next year is a little bit crazy. They're not going to be as historically great as they were, but people only have these brushes with greatness. They're still going to be a flipping good team. And if they can ever get Clay back in there as well, then God help them all.
I think. Sorry, one more thing on
go.
Steph. I think one of the fun things about to watch this season with him is Curry's been so unselfish in his career, and like he's played along such good players, even like with Durant, say, giving up so many shots. If he had played like on his own team without that kind of lineup, the number of points he could have been putting up on his own is crazy. So I'm actually quite excited to see a Curry taking more shots.
Yeah. That's reckon we'll get an MVP season. So, could it be a KD Steph Curry race for MVP?
Oh,
and
man,
if so,
that would be so good.
So who do you think would win it out of the two? Yanni first, just a one-word answer: KD or Curry?
Steph.
Nick.
Yeah.
I go Steph as well. He's a more popular personality.
Yeah. That's
he's more liked around the league.
Yeah, Curry's on fire. In fact, I've forgotten about Curry. Do you know what it's like being an NBA fan? You can only remember the last 2 weeks, if that. And so, do you know what I mean? I've forgotten what it's like to have an NBA with Steph Curry in it. Carnage, people.
Mm-hmm. True. Okay, training camp. Per Mark Stein, teams can arrange individual workouts from Tuesday, capped at 4 players. We are getting basketball back. It feels like it's never been away. What has it been, like 100 days? So, season is right around the corner. We're what are we now? 30th of November. So we're almost in December. God, this calendar year is just gash. 22nd of December isn't far away. That's when the league tips again. Do you see there being any issues with this rush back to playing so quickly after the end of the last season? Do you think it's just nonsense because the way teams have medically prepared now? They've had the mini camps with the teams that are out of the bubble. Or do you think players need more rest, Yanni?
I would like to think that they'll all be all right as hoopers, and of course, the NFL haven't given me great hope. But they're 52-man rosters, bigger organisations. I'd like to think that the NBA will be all right, to be honest.
Nick?
The thing, I don't think it will cause any issues. The thing I think it will cause is we'll see a real slow start to the season. Anyone who's over 30, like the likes of LeBron, who's already kind of just come out and said he's going to take the first half of the season off, more or less. I think we'll see that a lot because they're trying to fit in a lot of games right after this season ended. So, I'm just not going to be surprised when the older guys aren't putting up big numbers at the start of the season.
Yeah, I mean, the way I look at it, these guys are so tuned in now, and guys take 2 weeks off after the end of the season, then start prepping for the next season. They had a 2.5 month, 3 month layoff after March. They've had a bit of a break now. I just think the way that the NBA players prepare themselves now won't prove to be too much of an issue. If they want to rest anyway, that's fine. We've seen that from LeBron before. I get that. I'm getting some stick for my choice of slang that I threw around a minute ago, but to be honest, I think it's a pretty apt description of 2020 as a whole, so I'm going to stand by it and double down on it. There's also going to be another Chris Paul line for violations of the NBA's health protocols. Do you think that's going to be an issue at all? I don't think there were any calls in the bubble. Do you think we're going to get some this season at all, Nick? Because there's got to be some players out there breaching some rule somewhere that are going to get clocked.
So as far as I remember, no one used the whatever they called it in the bubble to snitch on people.
Line.
Yeah. So I don't think it's going to happen. Imagine it comes out you're the one guy who snitched on someone doing something.
Never. No,
it's allegedly anonymous, isn't it? But allegedly they'll find out.
Woj will know.
Woj will know. That'd be amazing. Imagine if he's tapped into that line. And Yanni, is it a good thing to have this sort of thing there? Does it need to be a public made public that this thing is in existence? Shouldn't it supposed to be kept behind closed doors?
Well, yeah, it would be in anything other than the absolute circus that is the National Basketball Association.
Yeah, that's fair.
Do you know what would be actually quite funny is like before, as the season goes on and like playoff seeds are being decided and stuff, you just snitch on the other team you're about to play.
Yeah.
Every player on their roster, you just snitch on them right before the game. That would be the best.
I wonder if you need like supporting evidence or something, because the league can't just go, oh, player X has snitched on player Y. That's it. He's immediately in isolation and he's going to miss the next 2 playoff games. There's got to be some kind. And then we got, the way things deep fakes work these days. You could really mess some people up. But anyway, I feel like we're going slightly askew, which is the perfect time to bring in Nothing But Nick's Silly Nonsense, our weekly crazy question from the resident Mr. Whitfield. So this week, with James Harden known as the Beard, he's claimed some facial hair brand real estate there, but who would you choose to popularise other forms of facial hair growth? Seeing as it was your question, Nick, I'm going to let you lead with this.
Yeah, we've actually already talked about this team, but I think there's a real niche for them here with the Hornets. And where I'm going with this is Gordon Hayward has already shown off some pretty impressive facial hair styles over the seasons he's been in the NBA. So with him, I want him to go either like V for Vendetta or like when he's one of the 3 Musketeers or something. And LaMelo Ball, I want to pull off old school Dwayne The Rock Johnson, like massive sideburns. I think he can do it. And I think that's a new identity for the Hornets.
I think that would be pretty cool. Yanni, what have you got? Any facial hair forms that you think should be popularised?
I'm glad we've got Anthony Davis in the brow, of course. I'd quite like to see LeBron rock the GOAT tee. That would be great. I think that would be very fitting and would certainly ruffle some feathers. So my entrance to the competition is LeBron with his GOAT tee.
Yep, no, I think that thought crossed my mind. I do love his mutton chops that he grows in, the big bushy things. They just,
yeah.
It just makes me think he should have like rolled up sleeves on a shirt or something as well. But what I've gone for is I went so niche and down a wormhole here that you'll have to bear with me. So basically, I want this to happen. It's not going to happen at all, obviously, because it's in my mind. But the WNBA's Maya Moore is a goat. Obviously, she's female, so can't grow the facial hair. And she recently got married, so this bit is completely implausible. But someone who's got the follicular veracity of Steven Adams, if they were to have a child and he was to grow up to be in the NBA and had her skill set and his facial hair and her off-court set, because she does a huge amount for criminal justice reform and things like that, then I'm going to go with a double. Well, this works on 2 levels. I want them to grow a handlebar moustache, because they're going to have handles and they're going to have passed the bar. And they're going to rock that amazing, amazing facial hair. So that's how weird and ridiculous my tangent went with it.
What?
Yeah, I was going to say there were a load of words I didn't know what they meant in there.
I think it was follicular veracity.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
And also, are they a couple that I don't know about, or
no,
are
they're
you
definitely not.
engaging...
This is my mind. She's just
You're
got married
engaging
to
in
the
a hypothetical selective breeding for this. I really like how far you've gone with this.
I said at the start I'd gone niche. I didn't warn you.
There was a trigger warning.
Yeah, I went straight off the reservation with that because I was trying to go through all different styles. I went through the goatee idea and liked that. But yeah, definitely handlebar.
Yeah,
just amazing that would be if it was a sick point guard. Wow. I'm gonna forever live in that. Josh had Alex Caruso with a twirly moustache, which would have been quite fitting. I'd like to be able to twirl mine, but my facial hair is pretty poor actually.
I believe in you, Mike.
Oh no, I'm trying. The missus is very anti it, but I'm trying. I'm trying very hard.
Standard. Stick to your guns, big dog.
Okay, so Talking D on Discord. We've got a few extra members in the Double Clutch Discord recently. We've had some awesome chats going on, a lot of off-season stuff, a lot of 2K21 stuff, a lot of Black Friday purchases stuff. We had Hoopin and Luton, who's in the Twitch stream at the minute, bagged a Hoover. I missed that completely, but is it a bagless Hoover?
I thought you lot were sitting there talking about retro jerseys. Turns out you lot are talking about the Dysons.
Yep, Dysons. I'm sure he'll come up and tell us what it was. Ross was interested in a Stone Cold Steve Austin title belt, and Hugh bagged an Always Balling beanie. So did any of you buy anything on the big day? And did you get anything hoops related?
I didn't get anything, but I did talk myself actively out of buying a lot of stuff almost every minute of that day.
Yanni, you cop anything?
Do you know what? I'd love to say I did, but I absolutely did not know. No, Black Friday, maybe next year. Maybe next year. COVID does not do bits for freelancers.
No, no. I didn't buy anything for Black Friday, but I did drop basically a mortgage payment on a PC 3 days beforehand, and then had to pray it wasn't in a Black Friday sale. But it didn't go in the sale, so I'm all good. Which is why my PC died, man. It was dead.
What would you have done? Returned it?
I'm pretty sure it wouldn't. See, Kirk's been on at me since February to buy a new PC, and it finally, my other one died about 3 weeks ago, and I've been limping through on a sauna of a laptop. But yeah, I finally had to pull the trigger, and it was Curry's. So they said like, oh, this is a whole like, we're not going to do anything for Black Friday about this sort of stuff, or it was already in a sale. I don't know. So I was pretty confident, but yeah, I was still squeaky bum time as to whether they actually put it in the sale, and I'd have just been livid. So let's get on to some listener questions. Elliot Wade, Hoopin and Luton, second mention tonight. How long a ban should Giannis receive for what he did to that PS5 box? So Giannis opening his PlayStation 5?
Yeah, I watched it, and it's quite clear that Giannis has never, ever watched an unboxing video in his life with his techers. He just, he puts it down, and it's in this like, almost like protective case. He pulls out the PS5 box, and the first thing he does is just like rip one side completely off. And like on the one hand, the dude has a lot of money, so like he doesn't care. But the thing I like about it is it tells you he's not putting that on StockX either. So he's actually going to play on that. I'm all right with it.
Yanni, did you see it?
Do you know what? I didn't, but it's just very relatable content by the sounds of it. Absolutely the kind of thing that me and my stupid self get up to when that happens.
I just think he opened it with all the excitement of a kid at Christmas. But what's really mad is that this is the same guy who sold his PS4 whilst he was at the Bucks that he just bought to, I think it was Nick Van Exel, who was the assistant coach at the time, because he felt so guilty having bought it on his rookie salary whilst his family was still in Greece. So he's gone from being that frugal that he's gone, I can't have this device in my life because, you know, I've got family who are still stuck back in Greece, to now just like rip it apart, don't even care. So
the other thing, he is really like one of those guys who's like, he's in the Kobe mold where he will not spend any time thinking or doing anything that isn't hoops related. So he's not going to spend a lot of time on his PlayStation.
Yeah, that's probably fair. And you know, what's he going to do? Turn around and free PlayStation? Because you know he didn't pay for that at all. Next question from Richard Fang. As Tim Duncan, Kevin Garnett and Kobe Bryant are being inducted into the Hall of Fame on May the 13th to the 15th next year, God, that's a long time away. Who would you personally want to induct each person? And if you don't say Gary Payton for Garnett, I will be mad. Also, who would you want to be inducted in the next class? So, Yanni, anyone you'd particularly want to induct? KG, Timmy D, or Kobe?
Be nice. I think Pop doing Tim Duncan's pretty much a given. It feels like Kevin Garnett would be fantastic. Rondo, that'd be brilliant. No, but truth be told, it would probably be nice to see MJ or Magic do Kobe.
Yeah, I think I'd like to see Magic do Kobe. But I don't know. Half of me's like, does I can never remember. Does the Hall of Famer, the incoming Hall of Famer, need to be inducted by an existing Hall of Famer? I can never remember it. But I'd also like to see maybe Vanessa well, she's obviously going to be up there. They're going to do something special for her. Nick, was there anyone in particular you wanted to have inducted? By whom?
So I went a bit weird on this one. For Tim Duncan, I also said Greg Popovich, but I thought about it and I thought that would be such a boring event between the two of them that I want him dressed and acting as Paul Bearer from WWE.
Popovich?
Yes.
Right, okay.
Just to add like some level of interest to that event.
Okay.
For Kevin Garnett, I had Lala Anthony.
Okay.
For the lulz. And Kobe Bryant, I didn't want to joke about that one out of respect, so I went Phil Jackson because I thought he's a thoughtful guy and he had a testy relationship with Kobe. So I think he'd do a really good job of putting something philosophical together about what he meant to the game. So yeah, I went for Phil Jackson.
No, I think that's fair. I had for Kobe, I had Phil, MJ, maybe even Shaq, because they seem to have they patched things up, and obviously the two of them you can't separate their careers. KG, like weirdly, and I answered this one seriously. I thought about Sam Mitchell because he was obviously KG was Sam Mitchell's rookie, and they obviously had a strong bond between them. And then Timmy Duncan, I thought it has to be David Robinson, who no one talks about anymore, but the Spurs are still using to promote their City jerseys and things, which I know Hugh's in the chat right now, so I'm just going to point out what that probably says about the current slate of players the Spurs have, that they're using a guy who retired almost 20 years ago to hawk their jerseys. I'm waiting for the incoming comment, but cool. Next question, which is also jersey related, from Flying Tortoise. What's your favourite City edition jersey and why? Yanni, I'm coming to you first.
I was going to go Suns. I'll stay away from it. Miami, actually.
Okay.
Any
particular reason?
Really enjoyed it. Just the whole slush puppy thing going. Just the kind of thing that you can catch me wearing. Yarns can pull off colours.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Nick?
I think three of them really stood out to me. Memphis, because it harks back to the old Vancouver one that I really like, but in a slightly more modern, cooler way. Phoenix, I think, is a popular one. I think it looks really good. It's different. And the Atlanta MLK ones, I thought was a good look as well.
Yeah, Josh went for the Atlanta MLK ones. I really don't like it because every time I look at it, I just read milk. And that's me, not them. Obviously, that's I think it would be a cool jersey because I tend to like simple color jerseys because that's just the kind of boring old fart I am. But I keep reading that as milk. For me, and again, just to underscore the boring old fart that I am, I really like the Celtics one. I really like it, and that seems to be a controversial take. But the minute I saw it, I was just like, yes, championship banner. And I wondered if there was some sort of mind games going on towards the Lakers, because obviously they've equaled the 17 chips now. And so maybe they were just trying to put a visual display of all the banners on the court for perhaps the one time they'll wear it when they play, if they play, depending on what happens this season. Yeah. Anyone else like the Boston jersey, or is it just me?
I think the only other one I really liked, which I think has come up in the chat, and I saw Josh mention as well, is actually the Spurs, who have their kind of like old colour scheme on it, which is like real 90s playing in the Alamo Dome type vibe to it. So yeah, that was cool as well.
Cool. I can't even remember half the other jerseys, to be honest. I did like the Memphis one you mentioned because it's sort of a tribute to Stack Records as well. I do like the fact that they can sort of put something into it. I think we said a few weeks back I like the Portland one, but it wasn't because of the jersey especially. It was to do with the terrain lines, whatever you call them, the topography down the side that went onto the shorts. I thought that was pretty awesome.
Just in the chat, Boston Brit says the Knicks is the worst one, and even as a Knicks fan, I completely agree. It is dire.
I'm not even sure I remember the Knicks one. I've obviously just
It
dismissed
looks like a training jersey or something. It's awful.
Standard Knicks. They've got to do something wrong this summer. Cool. So that's pretty much it from us tonight. So thank you to everyone for dropping in and watching. The chat has been firing away. I've seen lots of things come through. So shout out to everyone who's watching and talking along the way and critiquing the audio volumes. I think we had a couple of audio tech issues. Some new followers we had this week. The Boston Brit, shout out to him. Pick and Roll UK, Hooping and Luton. James Piper was in the Discord. So we're over 51 on the Twitch feed, which is great. Apologies for Josh on his behalf for his tech issues as well. Go and check out all of the articles on the site. There's loads of new stuff going up all the time. Yanni, where can people find you? Yanni, sorry. As you told me beforehand, I've completely butchered it.
The Twitter and the Insta is the same. It's Yani Ourabah. Just type in @Yani and it will come up. There ain't too many. And follow me. I can objectively say it's quite entertaining.
What can people expect from you?
Just a good time, Mike. Just a good time.
Just a good time. Awesome. So basically, if you are watching this, everyone's Twitter handle is on the screen. So perfect. What more can you want? If you haven't already listened to it as well, Hugh Hopkins had a great sit down with Vince McCauley, socially distanced sit down about the BBL, about putting together a team to compete in Europe during a pandemic. It's a really good listen. So please do go check it out. We will be back next week. So stay tuned for that.
Please, I don't want to go back there. You don't know what it's like to be considered a freak. Well, maybe you do.